How's it going, everybody? This is the Uncanny Omar from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And today I have the pleasure of talking to two people that have come, the worlds are coming together to talk about one big comic book project. Marc Silvestri, up at the top.
Hey, everybody.
Don't think I have to introduce you, but just in case you've never heard of Marc Silvestri,
Go for it.
That's impossible because it's my channel. Why are you here? And I talk about Marc Silvestri all the time, gushing over his artwork.
I love this guy. I love this guy.
Oh my gosh, I cannot go on and on about enough about your art. Loved it since the days of X-Men and even finding your old stuff like Conan. Solid, man. Solid.
Don't go there. Don't go to Conan.
Like when it was
you were fine at X-Men. You were fine at X-Men.
Well, it was the first time I was reading the old Conan stuff, and I found they had your name, and it was Marc Silvestri with a K.
With a K, yeah.
That's interesting.
I suffered for that for a long time, but
did you? Okay.
I didn't know I had rights.
But I'm glad they fixed it, and now it's Marc with a C. And then to his right is this lovely lady, Marguerite Bennett. How are you?
I am thrilled to be here. I love this book so much. I love Marc so much. I am so excited to share everything with y'all.
Marguerite has written a lot of my favorite books. She has this amazing series that was published by Aftershock called Animosity, which I know I've talked about several times on the channel. She's done, oh my gosh, she's done X-Men. She's worked on Red Sonja. She did Batwoman. Bombshells.
Yeah.
So a lot of my viewers love your Bombshells. Oh, yes. And now they're working together on this particular book that I've got behind us here as the background, and that is Witchblade.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So how did this come about? How did this project come about? Who reached out to who? What happened here?
It's actually kind of a fun little thing, but pre-pandemic, we were talking internally at Top Cow, relaunching the universe, and paramount to that relaunching was Witchblade, along with the Darkness. And we were going, okay, who can we get? Who's out there that not only matters creatively, but who has that voice that we're looking for to not only embody Sarah Pazzini and the Witchblade, but also who has a contemporary voice that would be able to bring this beloved 90s icon into the modern world. And we had a very, very, very short list of that. Maybe 4 people on that list that we thought would be right for that. And Marguerite, I don't remember which show it was, but
it was Minneapolis.
Was it Minnesota?
Yeah, it was November 2019.
It was cold. Yeah, it was very cold. And we both were doing this show in Minneapolis.
Mm-hmm.
And the show was very nice. They arranged a ride for us to get to the hotel and all that. And we both got into the same car, and I sneakily sat next to Marguerite and introduced myself to her and gave her the 1-minute elevator pitch of what we had in mind and bringing back Witchblade. And would she be interested in writing that book? And what did you say?
I was Twitter baited, so yes, it was like, say less, I got you. No, I was so delighted. I couldn't believe my good fortune. I had been a fan of the comic and of the TV show, when I was growing up. And I just was so delighted, and we really hit it off. And we're chatting about it, even then. And this has been 5 years in the making, and it's going to be spectacular.
Absolutely. And the energy was just right there, right? Because I love collaborating, and I love creative people. And in the short time, Marguerite just kind of radiates this realness about her. You're just one of those people that you don't even talk to them yet. You're just kind of in their presence, and you go, this is a real person, right? And when we started chatting in the car, time just flew past because suddenly we were in a hotel because I was just so enjoying myself so much. just talking about not just Witchblade and the fact that she was a huge fan. I was like, yes, all right, that's so great. Because you want that, right? You want that person that not only can speak for your character and create these worlds, but they have to love that character, right? You don't want someone who's just taking the job, right? And kind of go, okay, this is kind of what Witchblade is. I guess I'll have to write this. No, you just like, you really got the impression, or I did when I was talking to Marguerite, like, yes, like every half mile that went by, as I'm going even more, like this is the best thing possible for not only the book and the character, but most importantly, and Marguerite and I both understand this because we are fans, this is for the fans, all right? We are in the entertainment business. We are in the business of entertaining, all right? And this is something that we're both very aware of, and we want to tell these great stories. And I'll just tell you, when Marguerite said the book is like, going to be amazing, she's not kidding. She has come up with some stories that just are going to blow everybody away. So I can't wait. I can't wait for people to see it.
I'm bright pink right now. Thank you so much.
All true. All true.
So, Marguerite, when he approached you, did you know the name Marc Silvestri? You said you knew Witchblade. Okay. I was just curious.
No worries. No worries.
Did you recognize him right away?
She was a fan of Conan. She was a big fan of Conan.
Mark with a K.
No, like how I originally got comics back in the day was when they were sort of cast-offs from my older cousins and male friends, and so I would get things like Spawn #4, or Witchblade #2, and then it would be months before I got like the next issue, and by next I mean like, okay, now it's like Spawn 11, and so it was up to me to sort of like decide or figure out or come up with a fantasy in terms of like how we had gotten from point A to point B. So from a very, very young age, I was just enchanted by these characters, that, it's odd, like the overlap, between words and pictures that, are seen as like a children's medium, but it has this beautiful, like lyrical poetry, when it's targeted to an adult audience. And so there was no doubt in my mind that like, oh, well, in terms of medium, I'm absolutely allowed to read this, but I was at least canny enough to know that I should hide these from my parents.
Back then, right? It's like, come on. People didn't get it like they do today.
So when approaching this particular character, Mark mentions Sarah. Is that this incarnation? And I guess let's backtrack a little bit, because you're going into a new series. It's going to be a brand new #1. It's going to be both of you working together. Is it a continuation of a previous story? Is it a new reimagining of the character and the origin? Can we even talk about that?
Marguerite?
Oh, okay.
Go for it. Marguerite's much better at this than I am.
No worries. I'm a little rusty. Apologies. No, what I absolutely wanted, because again, I'm coming into it, into the series, in this magnificent opportunity as a fan first. And so I've, known Sarah longer than I've known a lot of my flesh and blood friends. And so, I was so enchanted by this world. And so I, went back and reread, the entire 30-year history, of the character and every comic I could get my hands on, my grumpy little paws. And I wanted to do something that I knew would show respect and appreciation for the dedication and the loyalty of the fans who have been there from the beginning. And I also wanted this to be, throwing open the doors for new fans. So this is the first moment, in the history of the series where this is like this crossroads meeting point, for the people who have been passionate from day one to people who have never heard of the Witchblade or never heard of Sarah Pazzini, and who we're stopping the roller coaster to let everyone off. And then we're going to take off like crazy. So I guess, in a way, it is a reimagining, but you're going to see some vital, sorry, in my head, they're like save points where it's like, okay, like this is the moment in your life that you cannot, this is a pillar, this is a necessary cutscene, that is inescapable. And so, we're going to have like the moment of the communion, you know, when it collides with her. But the reasons for that communion are going to be radically different than what we've seen before. The environment, the character relationships, you know, have been, I don't want to say updated because that sounds trivial, but have been reinvigorated in terms of the anxieties and the cultural crises that we're going through now, as opposed to the era, you know, when we first all got to meet Sarah.
How do you approach this differently than approaching something like you've written for the big two, like whether it was Batwoman or what was that, the X-Men, what was it, Days of Years of Future Past, things like that, which is like, you know, a lot of people love Days of Future Past, so it means so much to them, just like a lot of people really love the character of Sarah.
Well, I forget which person made the quote, but essentially, you know, some people were complaining about plot while they were coming up with a movie, and someone was like, you know, plot is the raw meat you throw the dogs, you know, to get to the jewels, you know, which are the characters. And so it's the, you know, the character is the driving force for me, regardless of the premise or the plot. And so, you know, in preparation for writing any character, I spend several days, honestly. This is very childish, but just role playing as them, like in my life. Like, you know, like how would Sarah take her coffee? Like how would Sarah go around her house? You know, how would Kate Kane like handle this object or this frustration? And just
That's
think
commitment
about,
right there.
oh.
I was already in when she says she read 30 years of that's a lot of issues.
Teacher's pet, and like if there's, all of my parents were history teachers at one point or another, and so I'm terribly spoiled, but I'm also just like steeped in academia. And so like if there's a research project and like I can find, like, and cite my sources, like I'm your guy. So yeah, with Sarah in particular, but I went through it, you know, I don't want to spoil the other characters who are going to appear, you know, but it was going through my house and, you know, like, you know, playing with my animals, you know, taking care of my pets, making food in the way each character would. And what I noticed about it, you know, what would make them aggravated, what would make them frustrated, what would make them curious or would get them off course. And, you know, just sort of wrote down those observations. And then, you know, that sort of translates into, you know, where they are emotionally, into where they are physically. How would they position their bodies, you know, the body language to be, you know, defensive and off-putting, you know, the body language to be intimidating or to take up space. And then from that, you know, tried to engineer the pages for Giuseppe, who is delightful. I cannot wait to read this. Oh my God. I bless the day that Marc and Giuseppe met. Incredible.
Giuseppe Cafaro, the artist for the new Witchblade.
And then wanted to design, you know, pages to make sure that like every page, you know, because from the artist's perspective, you know, I really detest when writers just sort of execute a script as though it's a series of storyboards for a screenplay or something of that nature, where every page is its own piece of art. Every panel is its own piece of art. This thing must stand alone and be able to convey something beautiful and meaningful that advances the story. And it becomes this mosaic of when you back up and are able to see the reality of the image as a whole. And so, you know, it began with that tight microscopic focus on the characters and their body language and the way that they inhabited their world, and then backed up in order to make beautiful patterns and beautiful arrangements on the page to carry the reader and the story forward.
I love what you said about
that's why she's the one for this book.
Getting into the character. And you know, a lot of writers do that. A lot of writers come into characters and it's like playing with toys, right? It's like, oh, I get to play with these toys. And it's got to be different than the way you handled characters like in Animosity, right? Which is like your thing. You're like, oh, I know where this is going. I know what I'm going to do with these characters. I'm sorry you're attached to this little animal, but it's got to go. You know, it's got to be different than writing Witchblade. When you're writing the characters of Witchblade, and oh no, never mind. I don't want to go back to that because you said you didn't want to spoil who shows up. So let's just
we have favorites. You know, it's like what Marguerite had described. We are remembering everyone who has supported Witchblade and loved Witchblade from the get-go. And there's a lot of really great iconic characters that we didn't want to leave behind. We are just treating them a little bit differently.
Mhm.
And the way that Marguerite is writing and the voice that she brings to not only Sarah, but to these other characters that we all know and love, it's fantastic. And the way she describes her process is perfect, and you'll see it. And it's what I thoroughly believe in. And I think the best writers do this is world building, great, fantastic. It's fantastic world building. Scene building, great. Set pieces, great, right? But none of that matters if all of those things are not driven by the decisions being made by your character, right? Because then it adds meat to everything. Like, there's movies out there that I just or television shows. I'm just going, oh man, that looks so cool, but I don't give a damn, right? And the reason why you don't give a damn is because the main character doesn't, and that character is very passive, right? And that character is letting the world dictate what they do, as opposed to the character dictating what the world does, right?
Mhm.
And that's something that Marguerite understands implicitly, which I love, which is why you are compelled from page to page to page to keep turning those pages. What is Sarah going to do or not do that's either going to make something work or she's going to screw it all up, right? But either way, it's the decisions she makes that make the plot move forward, and that is key. And Marguerite nails that perfectly. So I'm just, again, can't wait till you guys read it. Oh, it's great.
Mark, what role are you playing in this? I know you're doing, of course, some of the covers, and it is your character that was co-created. But like, what role will you be playing in this? Like,
sounding board, right? It's like I love collaborating, and I've had a few really good collaborations over the I don't know, I'm afraid of how many years, but few years in my career, and Marguerite is right up there on top. And I'm not saying this just because we're here together, but I consider her to be a great collaborator in the sense that things that we were just describing, and her as a creator. And we'll get on Zoom, which, by the way, we need one this week if you can by the end of the week. That'd be fantastic. And we just knock some ideas back and forth because we both know this character, obviously. Me from one side and Marguerite from the other side as a reader, but we're both fans, and we create stuff for a living. It's what we love to do. So we'll just knock some ideas around. Oh, what if this happens, or what if we go this direction? And we just have a good time, and before you know it, an hour's gone, and Marguerite goes and does her things, and a few days later, there's a fantastic plot in my inbox. And it's like, we all have emails, and we kind of go, oh crap, I'll wait to read that one. I'll read it. Oh, I don't want to even read that one. But I'll see hers pop up with the plot in the header there, and it's oh, that's the first thing I open up. So it's great. We work well together. We have the same goal in mind, and it's a pleasure. And again, I'm just kind of there. It's just we throw ideas back and forth, and she'll throw things my way because she's very respectful of the fact that this is Witchblade and the top cow and the history of it. And it's like I'll always go back to her because our collaboration is such a safe space, right? Because there's no such thing as a bad idea, truly, right? And it's all great ideas because we're going to get to the best part of it. We're going to get to the meat. We're going to get to that dog bone, right? And that process is just great. And I feel completely confident that after we have that call, the work that comes in is going to just nail it, and not just nail it, but go further and even better than I could have imagined it. Right. So it's just been a real pleasure. And the big beneficiaries of this are going to be the readers, to be honest with you.
Mark, I'm going to ask you a question, and your answer cannot be old. How does it make you feel?
Old.
No, I said that could not be the answer. How does it make you feel? We had just talked about Conan. Roy Thomas was a guy that was.
God, I'm old.
Hold on. Roy Thomas was a fan, right? Like, and then he got a job writing comics, and wrote because he was a fan of Stan and Jack. And now somebody like Marguerite comes in and is like, "Oh yeah, I remember when I was little, I got handed down a Witchblade #2." I mean, how does that make you feel? Like, oh, that's something I worked on, let's just say years ago, and not not dated, but years ago, and now that little girl is going to be writing the stories for the next generation.
I'll be honest with you. If you would have asked me, 35 years ago or whatever, when Image started, right? It's like, because when I was working with Marvel and DC, I was a pencil jockey. It was just my job, right? I loved it, but you're kind of limited as to where you can go beyond your pages, right? But one of the things when Image started and all the lunacy that came with it, one thing I was not anticipating was how much I would enjoy when people come up to me at conventions and such and say that certain things had an effect on their life over the years, right? Or certain characters that we've created over the years have had an effect on them. And I don't feel worthy of how I feel when someone tells me that they love a character. Right, like even in the car with Marguerite, just to hear her talk about how much she grew up with Witchblade, and that she loved the character it was hitting me beyond just, oh, this is a fantastic opportunity for business to be with somebody. It was hitting me on an emotional level, right? And I could feel it coming from her, and it's something that just, again, I never expected this to be part of my life, right? Where it's so rewarding to have someone like Marguerite be part of this process after, when Witchblade came out, in 95? Something like that, 95 something. So we're coming up on, 30 years of Witchblade. And like you said, she grew up on it. And so many people, when I go to conventions, they grew up on the stuff that, I had something to do with, good and bad. They grew up with it, so it's like I take them both. But it's wonderful. It really is. I can't really describe it. It's almost become my favorite thing. I mean, I'm a creator, and that's like the number one part of it, right? That's my thing. But knowing that there are people that have grown up with something I had something to do with, is just. I wasn't expecting that in my life or my career. And I will be eternally grateful. And hopefully when I do these appearances and go to shows, that I convey that to people. And I want them to know that. So yeah, it's something. It's beyond my ability to describe correctly, but it's an absolute non-intellectual feeling. It's pure emotion and joy.
Wow. That's a lot better than old. I like that.
Oh yeah. Plus, it was a long time ago, so I'm old.
Now, how about you, Marguerite?
Mhm.
Like, this is big. Like you had mentioned, growing up with comics, and you remember Spawn and Witchblade in particular, and you have written characters in the past for Marvel and DC and your own stuff. How does that feel for you? Does it ever get old? You're like, yeah, I've done Marvel and DC. I'm fine. I can do this. Or how does it feel for you?
Well, in terms of the legacy of it, it was just as I described, like the beginning, was fan fiction. My having to figure out how on earth we got from point A in this issue to point B in this other issue, became a legitimate channel for me to understand the characters and to. I suppose those were the seeds of having to plant myself into that the identity of that particular character and trying to figure out how on earth we got here. And but it gave me the ability to empathize, with these fictional characters. And I was writing all this X-Men fan fiction in school, and I will admit I have been the harbinger of a few different people. Like when I met Kieran and Jamie the first time, I told them how much I loved Phonogram when I read it in high school. Like Kieran just described himself like dissolving into dust the moment that I said that. But I will say,
you threw in high school.
Yeah.
You had to throw that in there. Yeah, nice.
I had my turn, to become the crypt keeper. So Bombshells. It was one of the last shows before the pandemic. I haven't done any shows since. And this young woman came up to me. I think the Bombshells had come out when she was in middle school. And, she had written a bunch of fan fiction. Now she was going to college, and so it's like, so it all comes around.
Well, I'm trying to figure that out. Bombshells wasn't. It didn't seem like that.
Wait a minute, when was that? This was
That
long
was
ago.
2015, right?
2019, yeah, or very early 2020, because I did some signings in 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was my turn to turn into dust. It's like,
You just wait. You'll be mummified in no time.
So when you guys are working together, and you said you have Zoom calls to talk about the plots, and this has been in the works for, sounds like, quite a number of years.
Yeah.
So that's really cool that these are coming out. How far in advance are you plotting the stories or writing the stories, like the script, and then seeing some of the pages come in?
Yeah. I don't want to give that away, but I, again, being the teacher's pet, love to write as much as possible in advance, so there are no surprises for the artist, excuse me. The number one rule for the writer is that the artist must always have pages. And so that is my big thing, and why I like to be like a semester. Oh my God. 6 months, a trade ahead.
And Giuseppe is the Flash of comic artists, which is like, we're just trying to keep up with that guy, right? And we're actually way ahead, which was by design. Because this book is going to be monthly, and we're not going to miss any shipping or anything like that. Those days are gone, and so we're way ahead of the process. And again, Giuseppe, if we ever feel like taking off a weekend, it's like, oh, here comes pages from Giuseppe. It's like, oh my God, this is fantastic, but geez, dude, I kind of want to have a meal, because the process, the way we're doing it, after Marguerite and I have our thing, and she does her thing. I'll look over any last minute notes, and it goes to a Giuseppe, and he'll send layouts to me and go, hey, is there any notes on these layouts? And it's all of us, so we can all have our say on there. And I go over the layouts, and because I've been doing this for so many damn years, and it's like, I go, okay, maybe emphasize this part of the plot a little bit here, or maybe make this a little bit clearer, because maybe this is what Marguerite was intending a little bit more. Let's focus on this character. It's kind of what I used to do at the Top Cow studio. With the artists that were there, I kind of just walk around and go, oh, try this, right? Because after all these years, I've seen it all and I've done it all, and I'm primarily a creator / I'm a storyteller. Is what I do for a living. So, I try to go, okay, this is the important bit right here that Margaret was really trying to hit on this page or this scene. So I might suggest, Giuseppe, hey, just hit this one up a little bit more in the layout, and sure enough, within like an hour, all the corrections come back in. I was like, oh, geez, dude, I wanted to have my dessert. So he's just like, he's on it. And you'll see from the book that this is a really talented guy that gets what, Marguerite is doing, and gets the character and gets that world. And we have Arif Prianto doing the colors. And if you're familiar with Arif, he's colored a lot of stuff for Top Cow, but he colored most recently my Batman book, my Batman Joker book. And so I know him really well. And he was like the choice for me to work on this book. And I was like thrilled. He said yes, right? And he had room in his schedule. So it's been really wonderful to watch the process, from, the great plots that come in, going into these layouts that Giuseppe's just nailing, and then the pencils come in, and then Arif comes in, and then finally Troy Petrie with doing these amazing letters. He comes in, just finishes it off, and it's like, wow, this is just a great book. Right? And Troy worked with me obviously on Batman as well, and years and years and years of Top Cow books. This guy is like one of the best letterers out there, and he comes up with these really cool little icons for the characters, right? And the fonts and the balloons, and I'm just really proud of this book, and it's one of those books that, as a fan, I love reading. And it's like, it's our book, sure, of course I'm going to read it and I'm going to love it, but it's like I anticipate it and I enjoy it, right? And even though I'm part of the process, when it's done, I'm completely entertained by it again.
How did you finding Giuseppe come about? Because I don't think he worked on yours, Marguerite, but he did work on Red Sonja, didn't he?
I believe so, yeah. But we hadn't had the opportunity to meet before this.
Okay, so how did you all go about finding that artist, Mark? What was the process?
We did a search. We went through and that's the one thing about the internet that is a positive. It's like
The one thing.
those, yeah. I mean, those things are getting fewer and fewer. It seems every year as we go along. But being able to find talent out there that maybe you weren't familiar with has been like a godsend. So we were looking for someone that we felt could get not only just the character vibe of who Sarah is, because a lot of who she is, again, by design and because of what this book is, we always refer to her as Sarah, not the Witchblade, right? This the title probably wouldn't sell as well if it was just called Sarah Pizzini. It's like, well, okay, what is that? Doesn't sound all that much fun. But it's really her story, right? So we needed somebody that could convey the real world of Sarah Pizzini and then go into this fantastic realm that she finds herself in. That again, Marguerite handles so skillfully. That transition and sometimes a juxtaposition and sometimes just a collision of everything, where it's this human person, very well defined in this human world. Okay, we understand it because we relate to it, right? As messed up as she is, and that's something we can get into as well, because I love that about what Marguerite is doing with Sarah. We can relate to it, sometimes horrifyingly so, because she's extremely human the way that Marguerite writes her. And to me, that's what always sells the big stuff, right? That's what always sells the genre stuff. That's what's going to sell the supernatural, the superhero elements of Witchblade, is because you buy into Sarah so well that when Witchblade stuff happens, it's not just, oh, that's a cool Witchblade thing that just happened, right? It's like you feel something beyond that. It's like, oh crap, that's a cool Witchblade thing that's happening to Sarah, right? Because I know this character, and I'm worried for her, right? And I can feel for her, and like, oh, Jesus, this dilemma, this thing, this wonderful curse that she has, right? And it's to me, it's like that's everything right there. I don't even know if that answered the question because I got just carried away in the story right there. But
no, I love to see passion like this for characters that you hold near and dear to you. I think it's wonderful and what we need more of in comics. And yeah, so I'm glad both of you are 100%. And Marguerite, I've heard Mark go on and on and on about Sarah. How would you describe your Sarah?
Oh goodness. Well, my Sarah is in transition. It's she starts as this. I mean, are the first pages out? Am I spoiling?
No. She look. One of the things, and then you can kind of go from there. Is like one of the things that I love about what Marguerite's brought to the table is that Sarah is kind of a lost soul when we meet her.
Yeah.
Right. She's not. She has a focus, but it's not necessarily healthy.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So it's really great how we meet her. And again, what Marguerite was describing earlier about taking these iconic characters, and they are still who they are. And this is one of the ways that we're going to be not only entertaining to new readers, but also to old fans of Sarah Pizzini and the Witchblade, is that it's her, right? But when we meet her this time, she's not who she was when we met her last time. Yes, she is a New York City police detective, absolutely. But Giuseppe drew this, and Marguerite wrote this really amazing first page that just.
Lisa
just
said that you have shared first 4 pages.
Okay, first pages. Yeah, so we're clear there. But he this great first page that shows who Sarah is now, right? And you can tell because it's a haunting first page, but it's Sarah as detective, and you can just tell that there's problems there. Right? So with that set up there, go ahead, Marguerite, and take it from there. And what not to spoil, but you also know. Go ahead, talk about your Sarah.
But so Sarah, yes, she begins in this terrible place, where from childhood, she's been, crystallized essentially by the trauma and the desire for vengeance after the murder of her father. And so this is the thing that has compelled her for her entire life, is living in her father's shadow and desiring to be part of her father's legacy and to bring him peace. And so this has driven her, to pursue service, to fight for the greater good, but also she is so tempted by the ability to use the powers at her disposal for vengeance. And so she's living in this life of severe deprivation, of being motivated by anger and by conflict. It's the black coffee, like the slat-ribbed alley cat, like the junkyard dog that all it cares about is like the next scent, like the next, enemy it's going to destroy. And the Witchblade winds up crashing down on her and sort of ruptures her world open, where all of a sudden all of the senses that she has like methodically shut down because she believes that it makes her a better soldier, a better warrior on this quest, are now burst open. I mean, it's like flowers in spring. Like suddenly everything is rushing in, all of the senses, all of just the glory and beauty and horror of the world is pouring into her and through her, and she can't deny the way in which she is connected to other people. Suddenly it's this overflow of empathy and understanding, and it binds her back into the world where she's not allowed to be solitary and driven, where she is now obligated and connected. And I mean, it's in the best possible way, having your heart ripped open and understanding how much good you can do when it isn't just about you. And it's Giuseppe does just such an exquisite job. And anyway, I sorry.
You had me when you had your hands like this.
This is what I talk
Again,
about when I go through the world, and it's like, well, how would she touch these things? Like, there was a night where I burned rice and was like, how would Sarah feel how she burned the rice? How would Ian Nottingham feel about the fact that he burned the rice? How would Irons feel about how he burned the rice? Fire whoever bought me this rice.
Marguerite just keeps answering why she's so perfect for this. So
I just love hearing her talk. Both of you are very passionate, but she used her hands, and I was like, "Oh, I'm in." I don't know where she's gonna go with this, but she's got my attention.
Wait till you read this book. Oh my goodness, she's gonna go places you're not even expecting. Trust me on this one.
So when it comes to Witchblade, it spun out into a bunch of series, right? We had Darkness, and we had a couple of other series, and then even like tying it into like what was it, Aphrodite. One of the Aphrodites. I don't want to spoil in case people haven't read it. Mm-hmm. But with that much history with it, somebody's asking in the chat, and it is a good, legit question about how new reader friendly will the series be, having never read any Witchblade before? Will I be lost?
Nope. Completely reader friendly. That's the magic trick that we're pulling here, is that we're trying to have it both ways, and I think we are succeeding spectacularly. Where it's complete, you don't need any history. And look, I stopped watching some Marvel movies because I couldn't keep up, right? So it's like, what the hell? How many movies do I have to watch this one? I don't want to have that, right? None of us do. But at the same time, you want to be able to be welcoming new readers. So you're starting from page 1, issue 1, and we're introducing Sarah to people who have never heard of her, like Marguerite said at the beginning. Plus, we are re-welcoming in old fans and saying, look, here's the origin, right? It's a little different, but not far removed from who Sarah is. And she gets this thing, right? This ancient thing called the Witchblade, right? So we don't mess with that too much, in the sense that, okay, this is a recognizable origin. And then beyond that, all the stories are brand new, right? So we established Sarah, we established the new kind of, I don't want to just say darker, because that's kind of being flippant about it, because it's much more than that, but certainly more like realistic Sarah as far as a character is concerned. And then we have all these brand new stories and adventures for readers who followed us for 30 years. Like, oh, I haven't seen this story, but it's Sarah Pazzini. I love it. Right. So that was important. And I really believe that Marguerite nailed that assignment. She read the assignment and she nailed it.
So here's the thing: you don't need to watch any of the MCU movies for the last 5 years. X-Men '97, though, what? That show is awesome.
I've still not seen that. Yeah,
what?
I've not seen that.
Mark, you need to get on that. Well, okay, you need to get on making comics, and then you can get on that. But they do borrow from some of your era too.
I do. I know. I see that once in a while. Yeah. I see. Oh, okay. Yeah.
You're like,
okay, they're going there.
Yeah, they went there. Yeah, the toys.
Those were good times. It's like in my career, I was working with Chris Claremont on the X-Men. It's like I was just happy to be there. It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
I'm glad that
this more fun.
I'm glad that you look fondly on that era. Because I mean, I know that sometimes creators get either burned out or jaded by what happened in the past and things like that. But I think, but I mean, even in the last interview, I told you that you seem really humbled by your career and where it's taking you, and not burning any bridges has come a long way for you. And now, anybody that wants to work with you and they're like, oh, it's Marc Silvestri, of course I'll go work with him. Of course, he's a stand-up guy.
I'm thankful for that.
To hype Mark up. I've been deprived of the opportunity so far to hype Mark up, but I have to tell you, I've been working in this industry for almost 15 years, and I have never met a gentleman of the first class the way I have in Mark. I mean, he is such a consummate gentleman. I have no higher praise that I can offer. He is so compassionate, so thoughtful, so measured, so patient. I adore working with Mark. I would like to always be working with Mark.
Now who's pink? Now who's
I was going to say that she's making you blush.
Look at this. It's not the lighting. This is like, oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. The old
stand-up gentleman. Look at that. That's what's up, Mark. Okay. Yeah. Both of you, people of just high caliber. Yeah, I got to give Mark his priorities, right? I got to make sure he gets to watch it so he doesn't get spoiled, even though he was there drawing a lot of the issues that is based on that. Mark, where's that Witchblade animated crossover with Invincible? That's another show.
Yeah, here's the thing about having characters that you can do whatever hell you want with, right? And because they're yours. And obviously we've done a lot with Sarah in other media. We had a TV series on the live action series for 2 years. We had the animated the manga series, which
that was insane.
Was out there. It's great, right? It's like, and that shows
because it was like how did this? I wasn't okay. So I think I told you this last time. I wasn't even reading comics at the time. I took a break. I was like, comics aren't for me. I found other hobbies. Mainly, I was just broke and I was going to college. But I remember when that dropped, and my friends were like, "Dude, have you seen this anime?" And I'm like, "Witchblade? What the hell are y'all talking about? Witchblade is an American comic. There's no anime called Witchblade." Then they showed me. I'm like, did they just rip off Marc Silvestri? Like, I wasn't even sure if you were part of this deal.
Bastards. Yeah, no, it was. If I'm not mistaken, we were the first American company to have a property completely reimagined as an anime, right? And
it's usually the other way around, right? Like we westernize things from over there, and I was like, man, that's really cool.
Yeah, and one of the things that I would kind of gauge as a successful idea, a character, is that you can go radically different. And if you've seen the anime, it's radically different. It's not even Sarah, but you recognize it as Witchblade, right? It takes place in the future, this other reality, but you still recognize it as Witchblade, right? So the concept is that solid that you can go off and have this alternate universe of your character, not having to call it like Bizarro World or something like that, because it just is. But yeah, so she's been around, and she's enjoyed success with a whole wide variety of fans. So yeah, we've been able to kind of been lucky that we can kind of do what we want to do with this character. And I forget what the original question was, but it's somewhere in there, right? Wasn't it? What was it? What was the question?
It was the
Was it-
animated. He's like, where's the Invincible versus Witchblade
Oh, yeah,
animated?
right. So we've been in that sphere, but anything's possible, which is like the short answer to the question. It's like anything's possible, and you know, we're working on things all the time, not just which is my primary love, which is the comics, but also in other media. So you never know, yeah. But we're always have something up our sleeve. So you know, stay tuned, folks. You know, it's all fun. It's always going to be fun.
See, I think people like hearing, you know, anything's possible, because it's not a no. It's not technically a yes, and it doesn't mean when it's going to happen. You're just saying anything is possible. I like that. It gives people hope, and I think that's what we need sometimes.
Yeah, well, I think people should have some hope.
Absolutely.
Not just for this,
people were
things in general. But
things
for
in
this
general is what we
right
need. Yo, and then people can take what you said and completely take it out of context. And then Marc Silvestri confirming a new Witchblade animated series, because you know how the internet works. You've been there.
I don't know what you're talking about, but I can always just say, "Look, it's that Omar guy, that bastard." Talk to him about it.
I don't take anything out of context.
Oh, thank you, Undead 797. I appreciate that. Thank you. It's fun to do.
Love your deadly duo. Ribclaw 2024. Let's go. Where is Cyberforce? Are they hanging out with Sarah?
You know, again, I'm going to say the same answer. You never know. You know. So look, to digress for just a second, I love Cyberforce. You know, obviously I'm attached to that for many reasons, but yeah. Now, for me personally, I'm concentrating on. I want to do more writing, which I found I really enjoyed doing, especially with Deadly Duo. I just had a lot of fun writing that book, and I'm doing more of that. Okay, well, yeah, I'm just going to tease it because why not? I'm gonna usurp the Witchblade thread for just a split second here and say, yeah, we're bringing Jackie Estacado back. Yep, brand new series. We're bringing the darkness back. Yes, because that is the shared universe with Sarah Pazzini. In fact, I have a couple little hints in there, but yeah, and I'm writing that book myself because I enjoy that character. It's one of my favorites, along with Sarah, and that's coming out next year. And Tom Coker is the artist on that book, which I'm really excited about. So anyway, that's that. But yeah, it's all fun. We're just having, you know, me and Marguerite. You know, we're sometimes I feel a little bit guilty how much fun this is. You know, we just tell these stories and just, you know, get them out there. And it's like, what's amazing, you know, speaking sort of tangentially on other media, you know, I tell people all the time, you know, that we've dipped our toes, obviously, in animation and live action and movies and stuff like that. And I always tell people, and you know, people that are creative, they want to be in the creative fields. Like, look, you have an idea. You have an idea that you're passionate about. There's no better way, no more direct route to get your idea out there than a comic book, right? Because if you have an idea for a comic, you go, okay, you know, a couple grand out of your pocket if you're self-publishing, find yourself an artist who's passionate about it too. Within a few months, you've got your idea out there. Try doing that in Hollywood. It's just not going to happen, right? It's like that's just like a big mess, and don't even talk about the video gaming world. You know, it's even worse than Hollywood. You know, and we managed to get 2 really cool Darkness games made, which I'm still amazed about. But yeah, comics is the way to go. You know, Marguerite, I don't know if you agree with me on that one, but it's just so much easier and so much more unfiltered to get what you want out there. And you're told no so less. Yeah. I mean, that's the first word that comes out of everybody's mouth when you're dealing with Hollywood. So before the idea even comes out, it's like, no. Then you got to like resell it around the no, right? It's like, I like to start with yes, right? Let's start with yes and let's see where it goes, right?
Now, I asked Mark his origin story the last time, and if you haven't watched that, I will leave the link in the description of the video. What about you, Marguerite? What's your origin story with getting into comics, like coming in as a writer?
Sure.
Because Mark, you came in a little bit different, but Marguerite's coming. Well, first of all, she's a little bit younger, so she had
I knew it was coming.
Nothing you. Nothing you. Nothing you.
Oh my God.
I meant a little. Well, no.
Near mint? No, it should be near bastard. God damn it.
Can I quote you on that? I'll make a shirt. What is your origin like? Well, how did you break into comics?
So I'll make this as fast as possible because it's like a 25-year saga. I announced to my parents that I was going to be a writer when I was 4 years old, and they were like, "That's great, sweetheart. You're going to need a day job." And they were very encouraging. This is so long ago that they still had to tear like the perforated edges off of the computer paper to staple together to make booklets for me to illustrate my own little stories, which were words and pictures, preparing me for comics. Then let's see, when I was in an after-school program, Batman the Animated Series debuted that year. And I radically misunderstood the opening sequence of that show. I thought that Batman was a bad guy who felt bad about being a bad guy. So he decided to turn in all the other bad guys that he used to work with. And now he was going to be a good guy because he was very sinister looking. Yeah.
Nice.
And,
that's a writer right there. That's a born writer.
So I gave myself a mission where I had to write, at first it was like 50 words a day, then 100 words a day. And then, as I got older, it was 1,000, 2,500 words a day. And then the recession hit and demolished everyone's dreams. But I knew from the beginning, that I wanted to be a writer. And so I went to graduate school. And, the variety of programs at the time, were really undergoing like a crunch because of the recession. And, a lot of schools, had rules about like, okay, no historical fiction, no romance, no sci-fi, no horror, no speculative fiction, no, whatever, until the only thing left was The Slow Decline of a Suburban Marriage. And I don't want to read or write The Slow Decline of a Suburban Marriage. But fortunately enough, Sarah Lawrence had a genre program. And so while I was there, for horror, honestly, American horror was one of my big focuses, that and British Victorian literature. I wound up taking an elective course on graphic novel writing that was taught by Scott Snyder. And so I brought in, these very elaborate historical horror, angry feminist, ideas. And a year after I took the class, he reached back out to me and said, I'm still thinking about these stories you brought in. And, if you want to do this, because this is a very hard career, I do think you are ready. And I can set up essentially an audition for you at DC Comics. And so he made the introduction and I, went in. I was still in school, had to go in and, go through like the battery of questions where it was like, okay, pitch us a story about your favorite character. Now pitch us a story about a character you hate. Here's a brand new character. Here are their strengths and weaknesses. Pitch us a story about that. And, prove myself in terms of how did I take notes? How well did I, work with editorial? How much of a visual thinker was I? How quickly could I get edits turned around? And it's taken me, a long time to realize they did not want to hire me. Other people did not have to go through this battery, but I was an unpublished student. I wouldn't want to hire me either. But they liked my work, and the work sold. And, and thanks to Scott and, all the people that I was able to work with, it took off. I continued to do work from DC. I started getting offers from Marvel and other publishers, excuse me, almost at studios. Oh God, I've been tainted. The rest is history, I guess.
I remember the first thing I actually have it signed by you is the Insects.
Oh my gosh. Bottom drawer book.
It was published by Aftershock. That's actually because I got to meet you at Baltimore Comic-Con in 2017, 2018, maybe. You were there with Aftershock, and I had seen, I didn't know you were there, and I'm like, oh, I have that book at home. Oh, I didn't know she was here. Oh, I got to buy that book again now so she can sign that copy. So that's when I first realized like your name, and then it was and then it was attached to all these other projects, and I would see it at DC, and I would see it at Marvel. So that's a really cool way of getting into comics. I love the fact that you were like, they didn't want to hire me, but they liked my work.
That's a big plus. Better than the other way.
I figured some, unpublished author would be like, yeah, let's get her now. Her work is good, and we get her on the cheap and hire her. Like, that would be the way to break it into comics. Because we do live in a different. I was wondering what your origin was, because we do live in a different time where things are like Mark was saying. The internet is good for one couple things, but that's how you found Giuseppe, right? Like you found his artwork, and I think that's really interesting. So do you guys at Top Cow still do the talent search?
Yeah, we just had one not long ago. And we just got all the finished art and letters done. And colors, actually, the books are done. And those will be coming out. One was for Cyberforce and one was for The Darkness. I don't know when those will be coming out. But again, we found some really good people in there. And anyone who's been following the talent hunt stuff, they've noticed that, those people are actually working. They're legit creators, and they got their start in that. So it's been a good thing. It's one way to get into this business. Marguerite's is like awesome because it's a combination of talent and determination to get in.
That's right.
Right.
It's a big one.
I like that story. And Marguerite, your parents, you said academia? They're from, Yeah. So they must have been pretty. They must have been pretty encouraging, right? I mean,
yes, they were. I mean, they were.
Once they got past you as a 4-year-old.
Yeah. Coming in and making this announcement. Yeah. No, the plan was always that I would be, an English teacher during the day and, a writer at night in my attic room as a spinster. No, but they were all history teachers at one point or another. My mom became, an educator, an administrator, and my father moved into politics. But growing up, we ran out of fairy tales, and so then we got mythology. Then we ran out of mythology, and we got Twilight Zone episodes as bedtime stories. We ran out of those, and we started getting stories from history. And like things like Alexander, like in the siege of Thebes or the siege of Leningrad, or Napoleon's march into Moscow, things
when
like
you
that.
were like 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's impressive. I was reading funny books.
Yeah, I know. I'm deeply, deeply spoiled by my parents and their love of history.
That's awesome.
So Josh, thank you for that. There were contests for Darkness in 2021 and Cyberforce in 2022. I'm going to be a fan here, but I feel like Sarah should have a dog. Sarah needs an ace. Sorry, 100% a dog lover. We're talking about animosity, so of course we have
I'm a dog lover too. So I don't know, man. You may not have time at the moment. You got to be a good parent to have a dog. So unless this dog is like powered in some way, but I think Superman already did that with crypto. So
but a Witchblade. Anyway,
the wheel's turning.
Yeah, you need to let me in on these Zoom meetings. I'll give you gold. As comic creators, do you ever have to deal with egos? Probably not your own, of course, because obviously both of you don't have a big ego. Like, you're very humble. But have you had to deal with egos in the past? Mark, you've been, for a few years, you've been in this industry.
Yeah. I mean, you do. It's sometimes it comes up. Oops. Like any personality trait, an ego can either be a force of good or a force of evil. Sometimes it just doesn't work out, right? And you kind of just have to cut bait and go, you know what? Good luck to you. It's been wonderful. There's not really much I can do with you, work-wise. But yeah, I mean, it happens, absolutely. And which is why it's always a real pleasure to come across someone with Marguerite's level of talent who has no ego and is easy to work with. There's nothing. That's why I called it earlier a safe space, right? Because when we're conversing, there's nothing in the back of your mind that you sometimes have to think about when maybe somebody has an issue with their own greatness. It's like, am I going to say the wrong thing here? Or am I going to overstep simply by suggesting something? So you got to deal with that stuff. But over the years, I've had a few. But I can happily say that the good has way outshone the bad, right?
That's good.
And yeah, so
Seriously, that's good.
yeah, it is. It is. So I've made wonderful relationships. I've been honored and happy to call some of the biggest talents in this industry friends, which is also a huge, huge plus that I wasn't necessarily expecting when I got into the comics business. It's like, oh, that's what, wow. Getting to be friends with people whose skill and talent I just admire. Oh, thank you, Chris Daughtry.
Oh, there's a bunch of. I was just highlighting the praises that people are saying.
Chris Daughtry? Is that my buddy? Is that my pal?
Both of you. I don't know. He's been watching my channel for a long time. If he is your buddy, I don't know why he's never hooked me up with an interview with you. Then we're gonna have to talk to Chris.
Well, if it is Chris that I know, hey, buddy, good to see you, brother. If it's a different Chris Daughtry, hey, how you doing?
Oh, see, people are already speculating. Big fan of you both. Hope to see some characters from.
Again, we're relaunching the universe, and you're going to see some of your old favorites. But we thought, again, it's not rocket science. We're going to start with our biggest, right? And Sarah Pizzini, it doesn't get much bigger than that. So we're kicking that off, and yeah, I think Marguerite, you're going to have some fun teasing and introducing storylines, and I hope you feel the same way. But as far as I'm concerned, Marguerite's in this for the long haul, so we have plenty of room to have some fun here. And kind of, yeah, exactly. And again, we're fans, right? And that's where we kind of come from, and we appreciate fans. We appreciate people that love this medium and support this medium. And our jobs as fans and creators is to make sure that fans of what we do are happy, and that they turn the last page, that they close the cover of that comic and they go, oh wow. Best case scenario, they go, oh wow, and then they open it up again right away and just start reading it again. But yeah, we want people to go, oh damn, when they're done, and just can't wait for issue 2 the next month, issue 3 the month after that, issue 4, just and we want what Marguerite was describing, how it's like she was filling in the gaps of these stories, right? No, we don't want people to miss issues, but what we want is, while they're waiting for that next issue to come out the next month, their brains, if we've done our jobs right, their brains are already telling stories, right, in anticipation, of where they want Sarah to go, because then they're invested. We've done our jobs, and it's like, oh yeah, this is great, because it's entertainment that goes beyond shutting the comic, right? You're still thinking about it. It's the best movies or best TV shows, best novels. You just can't. You're still thinking about it long after you've finished it. So yeah, that's
and those are some of the best stories. That's when you've got something good, right? And people are still coming up to you to conventions later. Hey, Mr. Silvestri, could you draw me a Witchblade, please?
Well, my favorite is when people come up to me and ask me my opinion on where things weren't, they throw theories at me. It's like, oh, but this character really meant to do this, and I'm like, you have to ask Chris Claremont for that.
The theories, yes.
It's like the theories are fun, because then it's like, okay, well, you're way off base, but I appreciate the passion there. It's like you put a lot of thought into that, and that's what we want. We want that internal fan fiction, right, Marguerite, where people just kind of go, oh yeah, this is what they're talking about. This is where they're going. And then we pull the rug out from under them and take a hard turns. Like, no, this is where we're going. Gotcha.
I'm curious about something, and this is a question for both of you. Marguerite, have you ever had to write a character that, like, either an editor was like making you write, and you're like, oh, I hate writing this character? And Mark, was there ever a character that you thought was just such a pain in the ass to draw, and you're like, oh my gosh, why do you have to put this character in here? Of course, it's different when you're writing the story, right? You're like, oh man, that character takes forever to draw, but it's my own story, so of course I'm putting it in there.
The short, quick answer on me is yes. I have characters that I go, are you freaking serious? people like this character. You like this person? Oh, really? Like, yeah, there was one in particular. I'm not going to say who because people have their likes, and I'm not going to sit here and rain and poop on someone's favorite character. There was one that's like, oh my god, really? Not that they were difficult to draw, but just I didn't understand this character. Right? I didn't understand the purpose of this character. I didn't understand the design of this character. It's like, oh, it's such a chore. Okay,
sound like
it's in there. But
you sound like Eric Larson talking about Venom. Like you sound like Eric Larson when he talks about Venom.
See, unlike Eric, I'm not going to name names here. But
you're a good guy.
I have one. Marguerite, okay. I don't know. What do you have?
Marguerite, what about you? Ever an editor is like, oh no, you need to write this character into the book?
So yeah, so I, there have been times where I've been given characters where I don't understand the appeal of the character, and so I do try to do that. Role playing. I know I sound like a crazy person, but it enables you to understand, if they are annoying on the page, why are they annoying on the page, or if they are frustrating, and you spend some time understanding, what element of bitterness or insecurity or resentment causes them to be so distasteful to read. And so often there's a way in, but like, in one case in particular, I found that for this character. I was like, okay, this wretched, aggravating entity that I have to include when I don't want to, but I found a way through. And the editor was like, no, the character doesn't need to be interesting. The character just needs to be aggravating. And I was like, that is aggravating to read. I would not pay my American dollars to read about this character if it's just going to be annoying. So sometimes, you are given an impossible task, you find your way through, with sympathy and understanding, and then the powers that be bar the way anyway.
Hopefully we don't do that to you.
No. And the individual who had me do that.
Remember, it's the same space. Just tell me, I hate this character. I'm not going to write this. Okay, sorry. I'll go over here.
Mark is the best draftsman of our generation. Can't wait for this new Darkness title. Look at that. All the praise.
Yeah,
love it.
You're all too kind. And just as a shout out to all the fans out there, Omar, I know that you have a good audience. So shout out to all of you for supporting comics. And again, Marguerite and I have talked about ad nauseum during this hour about how we're fans of this medium. So we appreciate you and especially all the Top Cow crew over the years. You're the reason why we're still able to do what we do, honestly. So we thank you all for not just supporting comics and the creators that make them, but just for being so awesome. You just are, for being way ahead of the curve, especially all you people have been loving comics for years and years before the movies hit and before all that stuff hit, which I'm a fan of. Look, I bring it all in. Whatever brings you into what we do, come on in. I don't care how you get here, but thank you all, because you're the ones that allow us to have fun and do what we do. So thanks. You guys are the best.
Damn, Mark, you're such a stand-up guy. Whatever Marguerite said about you earlier, 10 times that.
You can rerun that if you want, because it was actually
I can, but not in real time. Because I've had several creators on, and most of the time they're all great. Everybody comes in with a great interview and has their own way of approaching life and things, and how some of them are blessed doing this. But every time I've talked to you, no matter if it's been ever since I was a kid that loved collecting X-Men when I was 12 years old, meeting you for the first time, and then just telling you how long I've been. You've taken the time, and you've been so kind to everybody. And I feel like your company is an extension of who you are, because everybody that you have at Top Cow, now including Marguerite, has been just amazing to deal with. Lisa is a wonderful contact at
she is.
Top Cow. So
it's
it
great
really
what she does, yeah.
So I think you hire people with like minds. So that's really cool. Really nice people. And it's awesome. And talented too, of course. Sorry, I forgot to throw that in there.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And like I said earlier, I I love talented individuals, and if they happen to be like great human beings, it's such a massive plus. And Marguerite just falls right into that category. From the moment that I met her, I knew she was talented already, obviously, from her work. But then I got to meet her. And it's like, oh man, this is wonderful to have this person as a creative force that I can work with, but also just as a human being that I can just know.
The feeling is immensely mutual.
Yeah, right. It's such a plus when you get to meet someone that not only do you want to work with as a creative person, but be cool just to hang out and chat, right? Just about stuff. All right.
Oh yes, and he's so tall too. Yes, he's so tall. That is something that I remember.
Oh.
He's a really tall guy.
That I've always been since high school. Yeah.
Omar, what would your dream commission be from Silvestri? Oh man. Well, the obvious one, right? I got to figure out who he hates drawing first, and then that will be my dream.
That one. You're not going to get it out of me unless you ask for that person. Then I'm gonna give you an earful. I'll still do it, but I'll tell you why.
He draws my favorite Wolverine. Of course it would be Wolverine. I know he's probably drawn that character with his eyes closed in his sleep. I don't care.
He's not the one I hate. He's not the one I hate. So
okay. I was gonna say you did it uncanny, and then you went over to Wolverine, and then you had him. Oh my gosh, the Star Trek. You did the Star Trek X-Men book. You even drew him
project
there.
I ever did. Yeah, weirdest thing I ever did in my life. And I did it for one reason, because there's one joke in there. I read the script, and it's the Dr. McCoy joke when it's the Beast and it's Dr. McCoy, and an off-panel character says Dr. McCoy, and they both turn around at the same time. I was like, okay, I'll do it.
That's why you did it.
That's why I did it. And the fact that I grew up on Star Trek, right? Again, because I'm old. That was my thing when I was a kid. The original series.
Star Trek doesn't age you. It's still a thing. There's like 13 Star Trek shows. I think I
saw the original Star Trek.
Oh, the original.
Old.
You could have watched it in reruns on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Now we're really in a fantasy world here.
This is a question for Marguerite. As a writer, how much does someone like you consider fan reception up against a cohesive story and narrative? If something might make a fantastic plot line, but would create some discord.
I'm not averse to creating discord. I mean, if I think that it's for a good reason, I think that just, are we allowed to cuss on this show?
You're adorable. Yes, hell yes. I don't tell my
stirring sugar to stir sugar. Is not gonna really benefit you, and you'll just become known for that, or for chasing controversy. I try to really do what the characters would do, and if a character would make a controversial but like human and grounded and understandable decision, then even if it's going to cause some blowback, then the character needs to make that decision. I think that's the honesty in the storytelling. And, I do think that, the characters need to have their positions and opinions challenged, about themselves, about the world, or else they're never going to grow. So.
Nice. Nicely put. Yeah. And I forgot to mention, Mark is tall, but Marguerite, I met you too. You're not short.
I'm just under 6 foot, and I love wearing heels. And Mark is the only person I can do that around. And him and Ryan North are the only people I can do that around and still be like, I am short.
Mark,
I have that effect on a lot of people. Yeah. Oh, Darkness and Witchblade.
Out of all your image crew of the original 7, every picture I would see, I'm like, before I met you, I was like, oh, that guy seems pretty tall. Huh.
Yeah. Well, all the other guys are just short. That's all there is to it.
Larson isn't that short, though, I don't think.
Come on. He acts tall.
He acts tall. Love it.
He's an amateur. He's an amateur at height.
Any plans
for anyone that doesn't know, I'm 6'7", although I shrunk a little bit, as I've gone on. I think I'm like closer to 6'6" now, so, but somewhere, that's either way, that's still tall.
Yeah. I wish we didn't shrink, because I'm only 5'7". Like, I wish we didn't shrink the older we got.
You're going down after a certain age. Yeah, that spine's gonna start contracting a little bit.
I appreciate that. I can't wait. Yay. Any plans to release the much needed Darkness or Witchblade action figure, especially with this new relaunch?
Yeah, well, like I said earlier, you never know. You never know. I know secrets. I know things. Yeah, Witchblade. Yeah, it would be. Yeah. We've had a few over the years.
Yeah, I remember.
Now? Yeah, why stop now?
And your buddy Todd, I heard he makes action figures too. So
that guy,
that guy, right?
Yeah.
Making action figures for not just for him, but like everybody.
He makes the best in the business. He makes the best in the business. I remember when we first started Image Comics, and he said, "Yeah, I'm going to start a toy business," and we all laughed at him. We'll start a toy company. And then he showed us the first prototype of the Spawn figure, brought it into one of our meetings, and we all just went, "Holy shit!" Yeah, so he put his money where his mouth is. It's like, yeah,
they were so different, so different than anything at the time. At least here in America, right? Anything at the time, they stood out, and people, oh my gosh, they were impossible to find too. And
I'll give him a call. We hang out.
I'm an ideas guy. I like to put ideas together.
There you go. I like to plant those bugs.
Yeah, that's all I do. Do either of you plan on attending San Diego Comic-Con? I think you mentioned it a little bit earlier.
Yeah, I am. Every year.
Every year. There you go. You're right there, right? I mean, in Cali. Because it's such a small.
Just drive down. Yeah, just drive down. Top Cow's going to have a nice big booth there. We're going to have a panel where we're going to have some big announcements. So if you're down in San Diego, hit that panel. And we give stuff away when people show up at that. So, but we have some big stuff to talk about, so you don't want to miss that.
Awesome. And are you planning on coming to con in London?
I'd love to. You got a place for me to stay? You going to hook me up, Logan? Yeah.
You're asking the guy with the avatar.
You got a nice big place
of Dark Claw if he's got a place to stay. You are 6'7".
One of these days I will. One of these days I will. Yeah, one of these days. I've always wanted to. So again, you never know.
Hey, Thought Bubble's a great UK con too, right?
It's a great show. Yeah, it's a great show.
Marco, you're usually at New York Comic Con. Maybe this year I'll actually go talk to him. Slides are insane.
This year I don't have plans this year, unless something happens and I just decide to go. It might be a last minute thing, but not this year. At least that's not the plan. That could change, but watch social media and stuff if that does happen. But it's a great show. Obviously, it's one of the biggest, and the fans are fantastic over there. I've always had a great experience. So, have you done that show, Marguerite?
I have, yeah. But it's, I haven't done anything since 2020 or 2019.
Yeah, and I don't blame you. It could get scary, but yeah, the fans are wonderful over there. So it's a great. I mean, it's a madhouse, like an absolute madhouse. It's much crazier than San Diego in the sense that just people. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Artist Alley is insane. Yeah, I've covered it twice. This last year and the year before that, and I think in last year they had the biggest attendance than they've ever had.
Wow.
And they already had a big center. It was huge. And I remember filming, and I could not walk anywhere in Artist Alley because you have everybody lined up together, and there's narrow paths in between booths. And even
last year it was crazy.
Trying to find somebody on the opposite side of just Artist Alley would take about an hour.
No, I've missed panels at New York Comic Con just because they had me arranged from okay, your panel is here to now you need to go through the entirety of the Javits Center, and just because I couldn't make it in that amount of time through the crush.
I remember I had to interview G. Willow Wilson, and I couldn't make it to the interview because I was on the opposite side, and there were 2 escalators. So I was like, "Oh, I'll just take the escalator that's closer."
Meat grinders.
No,
exactly. Oh man.
I felt so awful.
That's no lie.
So Lisa's saying we will have big booths, panels, special variants, giveaways, and did you see the list of top variant artists? Pretty sure they will be there too, and that is in the description of this video. By the way, you can see the.
Thank you, Lisa.
Witchblade. She's on top of it.
Oh, she's the best, and she's a real sweetheart person too, and she loves dogs. You gotta love that.
Also loves dogs. That's important. Any plans to continue the Batman storyline? Amanda was a badass bride.
Oh yeah, this was fun, right? I've been asked to continue it. I wouldn't draw it because no one's going to live that long. but I do have an idea of what I could do story-wise, because obviously I'm not going to. I won't spoil it, but yeah, there's a way to continue that story and bring it to a conclusion. So maybe, I don't know. Again, you never know.
So with you now dabbling in writing, which I think is really cool when artists do that. Marguerite, do you draw? Do you like to draw?
I have a beautiful collection of artwork that my nieces and nephews and my friends' children have put on my fridge. Beyond that, I went into writing for a reason. I have no other.
You're selling yourself short. Come on. You're multi-hyphenate. Let's go.
Mark has seen in my script sometimes when I'm trying to communicate like the stylized way. Like I don't think it's a spoiler, but there's a sequence where we see, the Witchblade as an skeleton, and then Sarah in her body, and then the skeleton and the muscles and the nervous systems and the blood vessels and all of that, arranged out behind her. And I had to draw that to send it to Giuseppe. I was just like, please excuse this horrible crime against having eyes. I do I pack my script with reference photos, and research materials and stuff like that. And it is always,
the files are huge. When
yeah, they are. They're enormous.
I can just say that
artists are like, oh yeah, open on a battlefield in 1812, and these soldiers are, going to fight these other soldiers, and it's okay. What does any of that look like? And so it's my responsibility as the writer to go and find what those uniforms look like and where this battle was and provide you with all of that. The writer's time is already, so precious in terms of executing this vision that the writer should be the one to take over all that research nonsense, in my opinion.
I wish I would have had worked with you years ago in my career. That would have come in handy. And to kind of riff off of what she was saying about her sketches that she put in there, all I have to say is that Marguerite is a really good writer. Let's just leave it at that. She's a really good writer, and we'll just move on. So
okay.
I should pull those up and just put them on there.
Go ahead. I accept my shame.
I could have used them as a thumbnail for this video. That would have been amazing.
It would have been awesome.
Let's see here. I'm gonna pick just a couple more questions because I know you folks are busy and writing and drawing and
writing to do. I'm actually working on a Witchblade cover right now, so it's like, come on.
Thank you, Michael, for the super chat. How often does Top Cow store get restocked? You have a great selection of books and items at the Top Cow store.
We're actually reworking it, so it'll be easier for everyone to get what they want. So it's like, because thanks to people like you, Michael, it's like people really want what we're making, which is awesome. So we're retooling things so that there's even going to be bigger selections of what we have and easier for you to get your money into our grubby little hands so that we can get our stuff in your grubby little hands. Well, not so grubby, not so little maybe, but yes. So keep your eyes peeled for that, and we will be restocking and also, working on a way to make it even better for you, better experience. Thank you.
Well, that is a great question because that is something I hear often, and I think the last time I had you on, which I can't believe how fast time just goes, because I saw you at a convention, and then I think I still felt like it was last year that you were on, but I was looking back and it was like in 2022.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I know. And I was like, wasn't it just last year? But we had talked about like the restock of things, like you had just come out with Cyberforce and then Witchblade 1 and 2, and Matt was with you, and he was like, oh yeah, we're gonna reprint those. We didn't realize they were out of print because people that were wanting like a volume 3 of Witchblade didn't have a way to get a volume 1. And it happens. The big 2, this always happens with the big 2. Things go out of print. I think some of Marguerite's bombshells are out of print as of this video. I don't know if DC, who knows, maybe they'll make an omnibus one day. Pretty cool. Speaking of omnibus, Marguerite, you're Animosity has come out in different formats. Your
Oh,
one,
yeah.
two, and then they released like the big collection. How
Mhm.
did that feel to have your name on a big book like
It's
that?
great. I mean, it's like I could commit a murder with this. Like it was very validating.
Go for it.
Because I know Mark has his name on a lot of books
Mhm.
and a lot of hardcovers over the years. You know,
Because why? I'm old.
because it shows how busy you are. You never stop drawing. You never put the pencil down, man. That's a true pro right there. But Marguerite, you said 15 years, right, in the industry, and to have something like, it's pretty thick. I'm looking at it right now.
Mhm.
To have that big and your name on it, I mean,
Yeah.
that's got to give you like I did that. I wrote that.
It is pretty radical. Like the house is dirty, so I'm gonna like cheat really fast. And let's see if you can see all my bookcases. But
Yes. Oh God, that's beautiful. Yes.
Those are
Feeling.
real books in
Why
there.
are you on that side? You should be on that side with the camera.
Because the house is
Yeah,
a
let's
mess. I just got off
See
an
that
airplane.
background.
Look at this background. It's like that. That's beautiful. I love it. Love it.
But yeah, so like I have, all of my comic books and everything beautifully arranged. And then I did feel extremely smug when I was like, and this is my shelf right here.
Yes.
And here's all the things that I wrote.
A well-earned smug, if there ever was.
Thank you.
Mark,
do you have bookcases like that?
I have. Well, here's a bookcase, and I have. Oh, look at this! Wow, there's Witchblade right there. Oh, look at that! Oh, who'd have thought? Yeah, and I have I have toys and stuff, and yeah, I got my things. Not like that's not impressive like Marguerite's or even yours, but
Dude, no, well, Marguerite's got real. She put glass on. Like I don't have glass. Like I let dust become part of this, right? Like dust will be on my books. She put glass on her bookcases. She's serious about collecting. I like that.
I live in like this careful, spooky witch house, and so interspersed with like all of my comic book collections are like bronzed mako shark jaws and like taxidermy specimens and skulls and all kinds of weird nonsense that I love.
I have to come for a visit one of these days.
Yes, please do.
You say spooky, like it's haunted?
A little spooky.
Do you feel like the glass is keeping the ghost away from your book? Is that?
I think the glass is keeping me away from having to dust all the time.
Oh, see, I don't dust, so I'm just like, oh, now it's part, it's part of the character. It gives it charm and age. Yeah, and I read them all the time, so
that's all that matters.
Thank you for the super chat. Hey, Mark, if you're at a convention in the Bay Area, I would like for you to review my portfolio one day, because I would love to use my work at Top Cow or any other company out there. I think this
was just there last year. I was just in San Francisco last year.
I remember those portfolio reviews. I remember when I was trying to break into comics and going and sweating bullets, and I can't even remember the editors' names for these small little independent companies that would look at your work, and some of them were good, gave you good advice, like you need to fix this, this, and this, and then some of them were just awful people that probably shouldn't be in any kind of.
I mean, my advice to anyone, like Rebellious Monkey 98, is that if not me, make sure that you bring your work to conventions and show them to as many people as you want. And like Omar said, some of them are going to be awful and horrible, but it's okay. You have to have a thick skin, which never goes away in this business. You have to maintain that thick skin until the day you die, so might as well get used to it. Take the advice, whether you agree with it or not, just take it and appreciate it, but make sure you bring your portfolio. Number one thing that we want to see, we don't want to see your pinups, we want to see your storytelling. So it has to be, you can make the story up, you can use a story that's been out there, characters, whatever, but we want to see how you tell a story. So give us a good, if you can, 10 pages would be awesome if you can do that, but we want to see your continuity. Can you tell a story? Because that's what we really do in this business. We don't do pinups per se. As a comic book creator, you can be a cover artist, that's what you do, but we are storytellers. So that's what we want to see.
That is some Oh my God, if I was 12 years old and I heard Marc Silvestri gave me that advice, I don't know how old Rebellious Monkey 98 is. Maybe 98 is the year they were born. But if I heard you tell me that advice, oh my gosh, I think I'd pass out, man.
You'd be in comics. You wouldn't be doing this show. That like, what? Come on.
Oh, but I like doing this. I think I am where I'm supposed to
be.
Dude,
you're a legit guy. I gotta say that. The people that you said we're doing this show. They, that's a good. That's a damn good show. You know. So, and you know, Marguerite, I'm sure you'll attest to this, but Omar's just like not just a great comic book fan and who knows what he's talking about, but dude, you're just like you're a cool guy. You're a nice guy. You're a nice person. You're just like a pleasure to just hang out with, even through a Zoom here, just for a while and just talk, you know, nerd stuff with. You know, it's great. So, you know, thanks for having us.
It is my absolute pleasure. Thank you for saying that. That's really sweet. I mean that.
It's true,
you know.
Yeah.
My kids.
Lots of people have like stuff on YouTube and podcasts and all that stuff, and a lot of them I just kind of pass on, you know, because you do a little homework and you look at it and go, no thanks. But you're one that's like, when Lisa set it up, it's like, yeah, I know that guy. Yeah, he's the real deal. Let's do it.
Well, I really appreciate it. I mean, I just love talking about stories that I find really enjoyable and passing on the information, and hopefully other people will also find just as enjoyable as I have over the years. And you know,
thank you for your service, man. We need people like you to spread the love out there.
Oh, dude, I absolutely. Oh my gosh, Marc Silvestri, you're gonna make me blush now. And I'm Latino. Yo, man, and I'm dark. I don't blush that easy. I really do appreciate the kind words.
Well earned.
So you know, please go on. Tell me more about myself. Marguerite, you got anything to add?
This has been delightful. It really has.
Oh, you two are great, and I cannot wait to check this book out. It is dropping in July of this year, issue number 1, and hopefully, you know, we get some trade paperbacks and maybe some hardcovers after this long span.
You know, you'll get all the good stuff. You know, this is not our first rodeo, so you're going to get all the good stuff. And thank you, everyone, in advance. Let's go pick it up. I know you're going to do it. And Omar, thanks, man. You're good. You're a good dude. And we're always happy to, you know, whenever you've got some time and you want to talk nerd stuff, just let us know, man. It's fun.
I have no words. Thank you so much, sir. No matter how long I've been doing this, no matter how many people I've talked to, it just feels really cool to hear people that I look up to say things about me like that. So I appreciate it, and that's from the bottom of my heart. Both of you, thank you so much. Anytime you guys want to come on and just talk some nerd stuff, we'll talk some nerd stuff. I'm here for that. Everybody, go and check out this book when it hits. But also, they've got other work out there. Marc's got a few years worth of material out there with his name, and just a few years, not a lot of years. And Marguerite, well, she dated herself. She said she had 15 years in the industry, and she's got a lot, including Animosity, which is a big book with her name. But one day we may see like a Witchblade collection with her name on it, like a big book like that. That would be nice. That would be nice. And I do have the links in the description of the video where you can pre-order the single issues. I think Lisa said it's 35% off. So there you go. Go and check it out. Support your local comic book store if you're not pre-ordering it from there. But that's it, everybody. One more thing. Chris Claremont, you mentioned him earlier, and I have to ask, you and him worked together on a character that appeared in your Cyberforce named Huntsman.
Yes.
Any possibility of that character ever crossing paths with Sarah? Marguerite, this is a question for you, not Marc.
That's a question for Chris. I mean, that's his character. So, but look, I love Chris, and again, going back, it's some of the best memories I've ever had is working with him on the X-Men. So, again, you never know. We'll see. Unless Marguerite hates that character. We'll see.
So everybody go and smash the like button. Check out the book that is coming out in July. And big thank you to Lisa for helping put this together.
Thank you, Lisa.
And have a wonderful night.